Hello and welcome to the Christ Baptist Church devotional that we're doing every day, and we are going through the book of Ezra, and we've covered the books of Daniel, the books of Esther, and now the book of Ezra, which is covering the time of Israel when they were leaving Babylon, going back into Jerusalem to set up the temple and to prepare the way for Christ. So we're just covering the timelines of these. And you've been following along in your Bibles as we've gone through Daniel, covering the 70 years captivity, and then when he prayed and they all were able to be released under the decree of Cyrus. Esther, who is the wife of King Xerxes, one of the Persian kings that was during this time as well. And now Ezra, and we've seen Ezra 1 through 7, and kind of a long time frame that's gone on from about 538 BC now down to 457 BC, and that's quite a while. Almost 80 years has taken place, and now we're in Ezra chapter 8. Actually, when Ezra is leaving Babylon to go to Jerusalem, that's Ezra chapter 8, and we've seen in Ezra chapter 7 essentially that Ezra was desiring to go, and he had a decree on behalf of Ezra to go ahead and go, and was given all kinds of permission to go there in 457 BC. And now what we see is Ezra is leaving Ezra chapter 8. He's now going on the great trek going from Babylon to Israel. Okay, Ezra chapter 8. Here we go, beginning in verse 1. Now these are the heads of the fathers' households and the genealogical enrollment of those who went up with me from Babylon in the reign of King Artaxerxes. So again, we're in the reign of King Artaxerxes. We discovered the last devotional that this is 457 BC because it's the 7th year of the reign of King Artaxerxes. We learned that in chapter 7, verse 7. It's the 7th year, which means it's 13 more years until we pick up in Nehemiah chapter 1. Because Nehemiah starts in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes. And that's 444 BC. So we add 13 years and we're now at 457 in the 7th year. And that's when he's now leaving. And the heads of the fathers' households are all listed there. And we see this list going all the way down to verse 14 of the sons of Phinehas. Verse 3 of the sons of Shechaniah. Verse 4 of the sons of Path Moab. Verse 5 of the sons of Zatu. Verse 6 of the sons of Aden. Verse 7 of the sons of Elam, and so on. It goes all the way down to verse 14. And so, specifically, these are the heads of the fathers' households of their genealogical enrollment that left to Babylon, which means these were the ones that did not go in the original deportation. These were not the ones that went when Daniel was still going and people left to go to Jerusalem. And they didn't make it any time in between. So there's a group of people here that Ezra's gathering. In verse 15, now I assembled them at the river that runs to Ahava, where we camped for 3 days. And when I observed the people and the priests, I did not find any Levites there. So he was looking specifically for Levites. He didn't see them. So verse 16, I sent for Eleazar, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jerib, Elnathan, Nathan, Zechariah, and Meshullam, leading men, and for Joarib and Elnathan, teachers. I guess Elnathan was a popular name there. I sent them to Iddo, the leading man at the place Cassiphia, and I told them what to say to Iddo and his brothers, the temple servants at the place Cassiphia, that is, to bring ministers to us for the house of our God. And so he's needing to get specific Levites to help them in worship. And again, we see this phrase that we saw in chapter 7, according to the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of insight of the sons of Mahi, the son of Levi, the son of Israel, namely Sherebiah, and his sons and brothers, 18 men. So there's a group of men come, and they seem to have insight into the worship of God. In addition, verse 19, a man named Hashabiah, and Jeshiah, the sons of Merari, with his brothers and their sons, 20 men, and 220 of the temple servants whom David and the princes had given for the service of the Levites, all of them designated by name. So he recruited some Levites to get there with them. So they had leading men in the genealogical Roman, but they wanted to get some Levites to get prepared to get worship settled according to God's word. So they were doing this. So now they're getting ready to go. And as we get to this stage, I just want to mention one thing. That's where our devotional is going here today, the lesson out of Ezra chapter 8, which is the necessity of prayer. And one of the things that prayer does, and we get from actually Luke chapter 18, the widow and the unjust judge, prayer causes our faith to be strong. Faith needs strengthening. It needs to grow stronger and hold. It's easy to have faith when we talk about it in the Bible, talk about it when we have our Bibles. It's easy to talk about faith when we're in a church together with all like-minded people. It's easy to talk about believing because all we have to get past is our intellectual agreement. The intellectual understanding that there is a God and I am a sinner and He forgives me and I walk in righteousness and we agree with that. We have faith. That takes very little faith. Very little faith. It's when we proclaim our faith to walk and trust in God in a hostile world that now our faith, it causes us to doubt. Are we making the right decision or wrong decision? We have to make choices. We have to make choices that sometimes affect our conscience. Choices that would say, well, wait a minute, which way is God wanting me to go here? Is it this principle or that principle? What do we go with? Well, how we strengthen our faith is through prayer. The widow and the unjust judge, the widow kept praying and praying and praying and praying. And the whole idea was, I'm going to teach you to pray and not lose heart. And you don't lose heart for the right reason. It's because you're trusting in God who answers speedily. And what we need wisdom. That's the same thing in James chapter 1. When you're in a trial, let him ask of God. If you need wisdom, let him ask of God. And God, who is a giving God, will give to all liberally without reproach. That's what the Bible says. We ask, and He'll give us that wisdom. He will strengthen our faith. Prayer is real. Prayer is very real, and we need it. Why? Because we often talk about our faith, talk about what we believe, talk about all our convictions, but then when it's put to the test, that's a different issue. Our faith is all of a sudden challenged, and maybe our safety is at stake. But we're going to see that demonstrated right here in Ezra chapter 8. Well, we set the context here in verses 1 to 20 about they're getting ready to go. They took an inventory. They've got the people. Now they're ready to go. They got Levites, and off they go. And then verse 21 kicks in. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our God to seek from Him a safe journey for us, our little ones, and all our possessions. For I was ashamed to request from the king troops and horsemen to protect us from the enemy on the way, because we had said to the king, the hand of our God is favorably disposed to all those who seek Him, but His power and His anger are against all those who forsake Him. So we fasted and sought our God concerning this matter, and He listened to our entreaty. Then I set apart 12 of the leading priests, Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and with them 10 of their brothers. And I weighed out to them the silver, the gold, the utensils, the offering for the house of our God, who is the king, and his counselors, and his princes, and all Israel present there to offer. We'll stop there for a moment, because everything there is just weighing out the silver and getting it all organized. So it starts verse 21. Before they set off on their journey, they set off on a 4-month journey from Baghdad, or from Babylon to Jerusalem, and immediately proclaims a fast. I proclaimed a fast there at the river of Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our God to seek from Him a safe journey for us, our little ones and our possessions. So we're going to fast. We're not going to just pray. We're going to fast. We're going to take our minds and focus our minds on the issue at hand. We're not going to be rejoicing. We're not going to be getting caught up in all kinds of daily details. We need to focus because we're going to be praying. And this is why He declared a fast, so that they would seek God in this matter. Verse 22, for I was ashamed to request from the king troops and horsemen to protect us from the enemy on the way, because we had said to the king, the hand of our God is favorably disposed to all those who seek him, but his power and anger are against all those who forsake him. So we fasted and sought our God concerning this matter, and he listened to our entreaty. They fasted and sought God on this matter. What matter? Well, while it was safe in Babylon, while it was safe talking to King Artaxerxes, while it was safe where they were at, he proclaimed to the king, I don't need troops from you to protect us. I don't need you to help us with the enemy on the way. I don't need you to help me from ambushes. Because the hand of our God is favorably disposed to all those who seek him, but his power and his anger against all those who forsake him. You see, he put God on the line. He said, we're going to worship God because he is going to get us there. Now, Ezra's the one, he's a man who set his heart to study, to practice, and to teach the law of God. He knew the law of God. He knew God. And he was very confident in talking to King Artaxerxes. We don't need your army. Don't need it. Because we know our God. We definitely know our God. And I'm not going to ask that. Now he gets to verse 21. He's like, man, it'd be great if we had some troops with us, because it's going to be dangerous. He says, I was ashamed. Verse 22, I was ashamed to request from the king troops, because I'd previously said, I don't need them, because the hand of God is helping all who seek him, and his power and his anger against all those who are not, they're forsaking him. Well, that's a pretty big statement. That's his theology. That's his belief. And I'm not saying he was wrong to do that. In Israel, having gone through all of what they went through, and having the prophecies of God to be fulfilled, and he's causing them to go build a temple, I can understand why he had conviction, why he had believing in the promise of God, that this physical thing is going to happen, because it's in the scriptures. And he told the king, testified to the king about that. But now that it's got to happen, it's a different story. Now that it's got to happen, faith is not so strong anymore, is it, Ezra? It's not quite as big. That looks like a long journey, 4 months. And you're walking like it's no big deal. It's a big deal. So you know what he did? He set a fast and had everybody seek God, because we need to not change from our belief when we first made that statement to the king. We need to go straight. We need to not lack courage. We need to not go back whenever there's forces. We're going to trust God all the way through, and we're going to need to pray and fast to make that happen. You see, he knew his faith needed strengthening. And that's how he did it. By fasting and praying to strengthen his faith. Not to grow it. It doesn't need to be grown. You need faith the size of a mustard seed to get things done. Problem is, you need to hold on to that mustard seed. That's always what the problem is. We separate from our faith. And we do need strength to hold on to that faith. That's what we need. And that's what Ezra did right here. What we see, and then verses 26 on down, where we were reading, they weighed into their hands 650 talents of silver. That's a lot of silver. And utensils worth 100 talents, 100 gold talents, 20 gold bowls worth 1,000 derricks, 2 utensils of finely shined bronze, precious as gold. Then I said to them, you are holy to the Lord, the utensils are holy, the silver and the gold are a freewill offering to the Lord God your fathers. They were keeping all this stuff as they're going, so they had all kinds of treasure with them on a 4-month journey from the kingdom to Jerusalem. That's a dangerous journey, and you got no army. Verse 29, watch and keep them until you weigh them before the leading priests, the Levites and the heads of the fathers' households of Israel at Jerusalem, in the chambers of the house of the Lord. So the priests and Levites accepted and weighed out silver and gold and utensils to bring them to Jerusalem, to the house of our God. We're going to give them to the Levites. They're going to weigh it out. Make sure it's all right. Everything is done according to God's standard, the pattern set by Moses. So he records in verse 31, then we journeyed from the river Ahava on the 12th of the first month to go to Jerusalem. And the hand of our God was over us, and he delivered us from the hand of the enemy and the ambushes by the way. But the reason he did, and the reason they kept going, was because they fasted and they prayed and they strengthened their faith so they wouldn't hold, they wouldn't go back, they wouldn't retreat. They would stay as one and march as one man. Thus we came to Jerusalem and remained there 3 days. They made it all the way without any interruption. On the fourth day, the silver and the gold and the utensils were weighed out in the house of our God in the hand of Meremoth, the son of Uriah the priest, and with him was Eleazar, the son of Phinehas, and with them were the Levites, Jozabad, the son of Jeshua, and Noadiah, the son of Benud. So all these guys were there when they got to Jerusalem. So now things are happening according to plan. Everything was numbered and weighed, and all the weight was recorded at that time. The exiles who had come from the captivity offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel. 12 bulls for all Israel, 96 rams, 77 lambs, 12 male goats for a sin offering, all for a burnt offering to the Lord. Then they delivered the king's edicts to the king's satraps and to the governors in the provinces beyond the river, and they supported the people and the house of God. You see, they went and they took care of the things at the temple, weighed everything like it needed to be weighed, made the proper sacrifices and the way it needed to be done. That's why they needed Levites there. Levites to do it all right, get it all set. And then they said, now we're going to hand the king's paperwork, the king's orders, to all the governors and satraps in the area, saying, we have a right to do this. And they did that. They issued the king's documents. But the real lesson here from Ezra chapter 8 is just that little passage right there in verses 21 to 23. He proclaimed a fast at the river before he left. That doesn't mean you pray before you do everything. It doesn't mean you have to pray. This is not talking about praying before a meal and all that kind of stuff. That's just being thankful. This is saying we actually made a proclamation of our faith to the king. We don't need your armies. God will protect those who are for him, and his hand is against those who are against him. So we're okay. We got something better than your armies. Okay, proof of the pudding, start walking. You got 4 months carrying all that gold and silver. Do you really believe God's going to protect you? We need faith to be strong. We need to hold on to our faith. We don't need more faith. We just need the same faith that we proclaim to the king about him being strong and he's going to protect us. We need that faith now. So when we start walking, that faith's going to evaporate like water in the hot sun. We need that faith to be strong. Well, therefore, we need to be in communication with God, fasting and praying to strengthen our resolve and our convictions so that we can make the right decision following through with what we testified when life was easy. That's what Ezra did. And he was carried through for 4 months, carrying all that treasure under hostile territory to get where he needed to go. We too need that every day with what's going on all around us. We need our strength, our faith to be strengthened, and we do that through prayer. And really, where fasting is a concentrated day of prayer. We take our mind off food, and we focus, and we pray. And we do that. This is the lesson in Ezra chapter 8. Hey, we're almost through the book. We got basically Ezra 9 and 10, and then we're done with Ezra, and we're back on to Nehemiah. So we'll see you then, the next devotion for Ezra chapter 9.